well, it's up. It's just not in
Yeah.
slide presenter.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Great
There we
help.
go.
See
There we
everybody.
go. Everybody's having technical difficulties this morning. So there we go. There we go. We got lots of people popping on
Kevin
here.
Flowers, good to see you. Brian Sterling, D. Hammond, always good to see you. Derek Long is on, always awesome.
Hello,
And
Derek.
Zimmer, Rick Ressler, Terry, Tracy. I was just texting you a minute ago, and here you are. Lisa J. We texted you this morning too. I was texting a lot of people while I was driving this morning. Thank God for the voice to text thing in my car.
Right.
My
Except
text screen
sometimes-
is full.
Sometimes you have to be careful what actually comes through on a text because your phone doesn't always know what you're saying.
No.
I've learned that the hard way. You
It's-
got to read them.
Yes. Even when you're typing, when I type in shutters, it often changes the U to an I, so I'll just leave.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's we got a great group on today.
How
Um,
is everyone? Type into the chat box and tell us what city and state you're joining us in from. That's a good way to start it off as everyone's signing in, and it's great to be with you guys. Dana Toms is coming from Michigan. Good to see you. Kevin Toms.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Okay, somebody smells really good.
That's me. Thank you.
yes. I'll take credit for that. All right.
I've been running all morning, just got home, did a closing this morning, had to go to a rental. So it's good to be back and be with everyone.
Well, awesome. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our community dealmaker calls. We've been doing these every month now. Jim's started this dealmaker community and it's been amazing to be a part of. So I thank Jim for everything he's done and building the community. Appreciate him for everything he does. But we're gonna get started here this morning. So like I said, welcome. Now there we go. If you guys were not on last month, you guys can go back and watch these calls that if you guys missed them, Derek Long, understanding self-directed IRAs. I always learn something on these calls, and that one did not disappoint. So appreciate Derek. He has a lot of knowledge and a lot of expertise in the self-directed world. So appreciate Derek for being on last month. Today we're going to have Mary Hart. Mary's got a bunch of stuff going on. She is our keynote speaker next week at the Dealmaker. She's polishing off her final words of her presentation, but she's going to talk today about private lending. I've known somebody's talking there and somebody's open. If you guys can mute that, I'd appreciate that. So Mary's gonna talk about private lending. She's been private lending for many, many years, probably ever since I known her, probably the last 10 years at least. So I'm excited to hear what she has to say. Want to remind everybody about the Lowe's and Home Depot gift cards. If you guys have not gotten, not gift cards, discounts for our Dealmaker community group. Something that we're doing that's working out really well. We've gotten a lot of signups lately. If you just take a picture of this slide, if you just take a picture of this slide and you just bring it to your local Sherwin-Williams, they should be able to get you signed up for it. I actually had the guys in my office from the national accounts last week, and this has been working really, really well. So if you guys just want to, really the most important thing really is that tag, that I-464 tag. And it does take about a day, just so you guys know, to get those signed up. And then the Lowe's, if you guys want the extra 5 to 15% discount if you order online, this is the QR code. You guys can go there, sign up for an account. If you already have an account, you guys can take a picture of this or however you guys want to do that. But then you guys can take these extra steps and then put Dealmaker or that code at the bottom there.
Now, Tom, your screen isn't sharing, just so you know.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's supposed to be sharing.
Well, there's everybody. Hey, everybody.
What was sharing? That is so weird.
Oh my gosh, Augie, Lisa,
You
Dawn.
were just still on the first
Amy.
slide, Tom.
Okay.
This is like a room full of friends.
How about that?
It says upcoming.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm so sorry. Okay, let's go back to here.
There you go. That's it.
So there we go. This is the slide I was on my screen. Thanks for letting me know that. Didn't want to get to the end without all that. But so this is the one you want to take a picture for Sherwin-Williams. This is the QR code for Lowe's. And then this is the code you need to go and put on your actual account for Dealmaker to get that. So upcoming, we've got a bunch of events coming up. Jim, I'd love to give Jim a couple minutes to just talk about Dealmaker next week, what to expect, any last minute, advice or any last minute things you want people to know, as far as instructions are concerned.
Okay, well, really looking forward to seeing you guys. It's going to be amazing. Many of us that are on Zoom together are all going to be together next week. So if you're coming in next Tuesday, type in the chat like when you arrive so we can see. We're going to do pre-registration starting at 4 o'clock. Rita's going to be at the Hilton. The venue is very large. It's walkable to many things, including Chick-fil-A for Jeff Watson. Many, many things. It's going to be really good. It's co-located next to a really large town center with a lot of shopping and a lot of restaurants all around it. So it's going to be really good. Tuesday at 3 for Junior. I love it. And we're going to kick off. Mary's going to be our keynote speaker. And then we go from Mary, from memory, right into Lindsay Jensen. And Lindsay's going to talk about doing not necessarily options, but arbitrage on property right now, control without owning. And I think it's a really great place to be. Actually, Augie and I were talking about this a couple of days ago, because there's opportunities coming in Florida. And if you want to do it risk-free, I think master leasing, sandwich leasing, arbitrage, call it whatever you want, all three are the same, is a great way to go. And speaking of options, you can pick up an option to buy as well. And Bill Cook will be bringing that. Jeff's going to speak on wealth building with Boaz based off his book. Is going to be so good. And Wendy Sweet's going to pick up some of the mastermind that Tom's going to miss. On day 3, we're going to talk about mindset, and the whole theme is limitless. It's going to be so good. And we have over 300 people, I believe, that will be coming, and it's going to be amazing. I can't wait to see everybody there.
Yeah, so if you haven't got your tickets, get your tickets, but it's going to be an amazing event next week. And I'm excited for you guys to make that happen. A couple other events that are coming up. I like to promote. If you're on this call and you have events coming up and you want me to promote them on these calls, I'm happy to do so. But our friend Jerry Ricky has a land shark cruise right in the middle of hurricane season on the Oasis of the Seas. In October. And then also want to always promote Wendy and Sunrisers every single Friday morning. I try to hop on there one way or another almost every single week, but appreciate Wendy and her passion to kind of help with Sunrisers every single month, every single week. That's a lot of work every single week, I tell you. Also the Gary Dealmaker, September 4, 5, and 6. Lots of great speakers coming back and lots of new speakers as well going to be here. Hope you guys get your tickets for that coming up as well. This is the last time I'll be able to mention this. We are going in April on our trip. We've got about $4,000 left we need to raise on this. So our kids are going to senior trip to Guatemala, 3 days of fun and 3 days of mission work. If this is something that you're interested in helping me with, I've been raising money all year for this. I'd appreciate it. The kids would appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to seeing you there, Tom.
That's right. Augie will be there. I'll actually be able to see Augie and Jim and some other people in our network.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
We actually created this connection with the missionary that we're going to go see and share the love. And we're actually doing a drop with the missionary and the kids. I think it's going to be really fun for the kids. The kids don't even know how fun it's going to be yet. But I'm excited about it. And I'm appreciative of Augie and his team putting that all together. It's been a lot of back and forth, I'll tell you that. But
Sure has.
if you're interested in helping us finish this up, I'd appreciate it. We're kind of right there at the edge. Next month, our next month call is going to be with Andy Teasley. He's going to be talking about notes. I actually learned a couple things from Andy on this last cruise. I was like, man, there's some really good wisdom there. So these older guys with gray hair, you got to look for the older guys with gray hair. They know a bunch. So he's going to be our next call. And then I already have the calls lined out for the next couple months. I just kind of want to let you guys know we got Andy next month, Bill Cook the following month, and then the next month in June we have a rock star panel with Rich.
Can't wait for this one.
Yes, Rich Lennon, Jim Ingersoll, Reggie Reg. I think that's not how you say his name.
Jeff Watson.
Jeff Watson and Kevin Femley have said that they'll help us with that small dollar IRA panel. So I'm really excited about that as well. I just posted it on Facebook because we were kind of talking about it on the cruise on a little other chat, and it kind of blew up really fast and a lot of people wanted to be a part of it. So, and then Joseph Scoris, who's actually one of the Dealmaker meetup group leaders, is going to be speaking in July as well. So without further ado, we're going to get to it with Mary. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and Jim's going to kind of take the call and kind of do this roundtable lending discussion thing, or with.
Okay, we like this to
Mary.
be interactive. Both Mary and I love to be interactive, and we love talking to you guys. And we both have a ton of friends on here today. Mary, isn't this amazing?
Yeah, it's great. I see lots of people I know and love. Can't wait to see a lot of them next week. I'm super stoked.
And so we want to hear from you guys. Some of you folks do a ton of lending, like Derek, you're really good with the IRA side. Jeff Watson, I mean, my bud, just jump in anytime, okay? I want to hear from all of you guys. So, Mary, let's just start talking about lending. Why do you love lending?
Well, as Tom has always said, it's the best seat at the table, right? It's a great effort to return ratio. It's your backpack business. I can do it from anywhere. In fact, I was collecting payoffs from you, Jim, when I was sitting in the Bahamas a week or two ago. It's great sitting by the pool, drinking a pina colada and calculating payoffs and accepting interest payments. And it was so much fun. I think I made $14,000 in one day just sitting there with interest
I know I
payments
sent
coming
you a
in.
bunch. Hey,
Yeah,
by the
I
way,
think I got
That's
2
not
or
a
3
bad
from
day.
you.
Not a bad day.
Not a bad day at all. So
Mary recently did 4 loans, 2 to me and 1 to each of my daughters, Melissa and Krissa. And
Yeah.
everything
Deep
worked out
borrowing.
beautifully there. Everything's like really in like 4 months, you're getting all your money back.
Yeah, in fact, I think I owe you a little check for some extra interest, Jim, that
Oh.
I just calculated off the last one that
Well,
the
bring it
payoff
with you.
a little bit earlier. Yeah, there, bring it with you, or take you out to dinner or something. No,
Yeah,
I'll
that
get.
would be great. That would be great.
But yeah, I started lending. I was trying to figure it out. 2004 was when I started. So I've been doing this for 21 years as a lone wolf, just myself.
Yeah.
And I did it. I was an accidental lender. I mean, I had someone, a mortgage broker that I met somewhere, said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing a private loan to a real estate investor?" And I didn't know what it was. I mean, I'd been an attorney for many years at that point, but I really didn't know there was such a thing as private lending. And he asked me to do it. And I happened to have some money sitting in a checking account. And I was like, it's like a $50,000 loan. I was like, sure. And I loved it. The regular interest rate was 15%. And the woman actually went into default in the first loan. My interest rate jumped to 18%. And anyway, she ended up refinancing me out. I didn't have to foreclose. And I just made a lot of money. I'm like, man, this is kind of fun. You know, I was practicing law and making more money on the side in one loan than I was making as my salary as a lawyer. So
Be amazing, isn't it?
yeah, it was pretty cool.
So right off the top, now you're scaling your business, which is amazing. So if somebody that's on Zoom or watching in right now wants to find out how it works to be a borrower for yours, what's your website?
So we're working on the website because I just set up this Fair Oaks Funding LLC. So we're working on the website. We are going to have landing pages at Dealmaker. They're doing the final tweaks right now that will take you directly where you can fill out a form if you're interested in talking with us. And then Patty Bain is coming on board with me as sort of the borrower liaison loan manager person because, you know, she's this licensed residential contractor. She's done hundreds of flips. So anyway, you will probably as a borrower schedule a call with her first and just start talking about what you've got going on and what you want to do. And if we think we'll be a good fit and you think we'll be a good fit, then we'll go forward from there. On the investor side, we're just going to work with co-lenders. So far, it's all been my money and my lines of credit. And I've used my siblings a couple of times. But then if somebody's interested in investing, they'll fill out a form and then get a call with me and we'll just figure out what they need and if we can help them. So all those landing pages will be ready by next week, and then we'll be able to publish them. You know,
all right, love it. I love it.
I've got a question.
Go ahead, Tom.
In right now. So
in.
you talked about all of this. You know, private lending is great, but how do you find good borrowers?
Well, you find good borrowers by being in good rooms, right? So Baker is a great place. In fact, it's funny, I don't live in Richmond. So far, every one of my borrowers, with the exception of one in the last year, and I've probably done 30 loans in the last year, every one of those people is in Virginia. Why are they in Virginia? Because they all came to Dealmaker. met me at Dealmaker. And the one that we just did that's in South Carolina, I met at the Dealmaker Lending Conference in Orlando. So it's being in the right room, it's talking to people, letting people know what you do, letting people know that your goal is to help them. We always want to help the borrower. We want to help the co-lender investor, because that's how we get ahead in this world, right? A rising tide rises all ships. And we truly believe the more people we can help, the better we're going to be. So it's being in the right room and making the effort to talk to people. And I get kind of introverted. I know nobody believes that, but I do. And I have to force myself to actually break into a conversation and start talking, because I could just, hide in the corner if I wanted to. But nobody believes that about me, but it is true.
No way. I don't believe it.
It is true. And I've been speaking for 30 some years, and I get nervous as heck every time before I get
do
up.
you really? There's a secret. You're going to
Absolutely
be nervous
nervous.
before Dealmaker? I
I am
don't.
absolutely nervous before I go up there. I've been literally speaking for over 30 years, and I'm nervous every time I go up there. But I think that's partly what makes me a better speaker, because I get nervous, I prepare better, because I'm scared to death I'm going to get up there and, people look at me like I'm standing up there in my underwear. It's very.
Can you believe, like, we're going to have over 300 people this year, Mary? That's a big crew to speak to.
Way to make me even more nervous, Jim. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Making myself nervous.
Yeah, I heard there was going to be like 600 or 700.
Yeah, I think, well, we'll see what happens here.
It's going to be great. It always is. It's my favorite conference of the year. The people there are great. The speakers are great. I'm super, super excited.
Love it. Oh, hey, Paul White popping in. Okay. So Tom's question was, how do you find great borrowers? And Tom, the answer is you got to go to where the great investors are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
in the room.
And it also goes,
what you do.
What's that, Mary?
Let people know what you do. I mean, you have to let people know what you do, and then they find you. And then a good borrower that you have a good experience with will tell their buddies who are good borrowers. So it's just, it's like the way you do anything else. And you market yourself in any business. You have to let people know what you do. You have to get out in the room and talk to people, or, let them know.
I always tell people, like, be willing to tell your story. And your story, the story of all of our lives has peaks and valleys, and lean into the valleys and lean into those obstacles when you're talking to people, because it creates transparency and genuine relationships. Like, don't be afraid to talk about the things that go wrong, because all of us know that if we hear from somebody and everything is, perfect, then there's something wrong with the integrity of the person we're talking to. So, don't try to manage those perceptions, but lean into the issues and lean into the challenges. I've gotten better about talking about mine the last 6 or 7 years, and I think it helps all of us to remember that. So the other place you can get into the right room is in the monthly meetups that are popping up all over the country. Tom's got the one in Gary, but Lisa J's got one in Austin, Texas. I see Lisa on here, which is amazing. And we're in 20 cities, and there's 2 or 3 more that we're talking to right now. So I love seeing that pop up, and all of this is happening really quick. So you've got to be in the right room for sure, 100%.
Yep.
So
Brian
and Amy have theirs.
Tom.
They're on the call too. Brian and Amy.
Oh, hey, Brian. Oh,
I see Amy. I'm not sure I see.
okay.
Brian.
Hey, Amy. I love it. So yeah, you got to be in the right room, and in the room could be here on the monthly Zoom. The Dealmaker community Zoom has been amazing. Look at the great people that are on Zoom today. It's very humbling. So Mary, and I'll tell you, I'll give you my testimony for Mary here as well, because I think I started borrowing from her like 10 years ago when I first met her with the different color hair, Mary.
Yeah, it was a wig.
And soon after that, we started working together, and like Mary, I'm sure you would agree that I've never had an issue as a borrower, and you've never had an issue as a lender, and that's the way that it should work. So I can tell you, Mary is 100% dependable, 1000% on the integrity scale, and communication, and her wire shows up when it's supposed to show up. Her docs are reasonable and excellent. So I do both borrow and lending. but I've loved borrowing with Mary for the last 10 years. So if you've got a loan coming up, you should definitely reach out to her because she'll fulfill the loan, she'll protect your interest and help you all the way through it.
We do have an email if you're an interested borrower. It's just borrow@fairoaksfunding.com. And if you're an interested co-lender, it's invest@fairoaksfunding.com. And that's one thing I was going to say about, integrity and doing the right thing. We actually just adopted a Ted Lasso tagline, which is doing the right thing is never the wrong thing. That's our favorite tagline for Fair Oaks Funding. And I really believe in honesty, transparency, integrity, do what you say you're going to do. And I have never, ever in my 21 years of lending, ever left a borrower high and dry at the altar, so to speak. If I underwrite a loan and I say I'm going to fund a loan, I will fund that loan unless the borrower did not give me accurate information and that changes the deal. But that has never happened because I think when you're really open and transparent with the borrowers and the lenders, then you get all the information up front to make the right decision, whether it's to fund the loan or not. And we have walked away. I have walked away, and now Patty with me. We have walked away from loans that we could have made a lot of money on because we thought the margins were too skinny for the borrower. We would get paid because we'd get paid first, but we have said to the borrower, and this is Patty's experience as a flipper, this is not a good deal for you. And we've helped them renegotiate with sellers and other things when we realize the rehab costs are way higher than what the borrower thinks they're going to be. And so that's the way I think it should be between borrowers and lenders. It should be like, is it Zig Ziglar who says, if you help enough people get what they need, you get everything you want.
I've lived my life on that one.
Absolutely. We do too. And so I feel like I could go out and make, in that particular deal, I probably would have made $37,000 in 6 months. That would have been it was a big loan. It would have been a good deal for me. But Patty and I looked at it, and Patty was the first one. She looked at the scope of work and the property and everything. She said, there's no way. You can't do this rehab for that amount of money. And it was a new borrower, someone who it was his first or second flip. So he did not have the experience to know that. And so we worked with him for probably a month or more, many hours of phone calls and review, and told him, we said, we think you should walk away from this deal if the seller won't drop the price more. And he did walk away, and we lost $37,000 because of that, but we were happy to do that because we want a relationship with that borrower. And if he's a new borrower and not successful on his first or second flip, he's going to get discouraged and not go forward. So we want to help the borrowers too, because we want everybody to win in this deal. It should be a win for the borrower, the lender, the new homeowner, the seller.
Right.
Everybody should win in these deals.
So talk a little bit about underwriting, since that's a key piece that makes people nervous.
Yeah.
They're nervous to be a lender because you got to get your capital back.
Yeah,
return of capital is critical.
Yeah, the underwriting is key. And in fact, that's my keynote presentation is going to be a lot about underwriting for all sorts of different types of deals, not just borrowing and lending. But, as we've talked about before, Jim, and I think we've talked about it at Dealmaker, you always have to vet the people, the property, and the paperwork. Now, there are hard money lenders who don't give a darn about the person. I am not one of them because I want to do good deals with good people. I don't want to do deals with people I don't think are good people. So I will vet the person. When I say vet the person, I want to have at least a Zoom call face to face. I want to make sure we share values and integrity and all that. We don't check credit scores right now, although we might in the future. We might ask about it, but we don't do a soft pull on anybody's credit right now. We have the option to do that, and we have the option to run background checks. And if I see any red flags in my conversation with a borrower, I might run those background checks. So we look at the person. I want to look at their experience. How many deals have they done in the last 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? How has that turned out? I want to know how they handled a deal that went bad. If they had a deal that went bad, how did they handle it? I might ask for references from other lenders that they've borrowed from. And I might ask, if you're not working with those lenders anymore, why is that? I want to know sort of what happened. Sometimes they say, well, I have a great lender I work with all the time, but they're fully deployed right now. Okay. I might call that lender, and I have called those lenders, and they say, oh, great person to work with. We just don't have the capital right now. So I'll do, I might do a Google search or a social media search to see if I've come across somebody's Facebook page and they are nasty, mean, disgusting people on Facebook, and they fight with everybody. I don't want to borrow with. I don't want to lend to.
Toxic people.
If they're toxic, I do not want toxic people in my life. I am 61 years old. I don't want to start admitting toxic people into my life. So again, it's the money is not the first thing we look at. I want to make sure we're doing good deals with good people. So we vet the person, we vet the property. That's, you know, for any deal, you're going to vet the property. So we look at tax records, we look at comps, we look at if they have had an inspection report. We look at you know, everything. We have pictures before pictures if we can get them before we even decide to fund the deal. And we run our numbers, and we don't just rely on what the borrower says is the ARV, the after repaired value. We absolutely try to run our own numbers with the information we can get. I've gone so far as to hire a realtor in a city, if I'm not there, to go buy a property, take pictures of it. They can't get on the inside usually because it's not a listed property usually, but take pictures, tell me what the neighborhood's like. I will Google Earth it and walk the street. What does this street look like? The reason I do that is because I don't want a loan on a property that I would not be willing to take back for the amount of the loan. Because as Dykes Boddiford used to say, and I know Jeff Watson knows this well, you might be buying that property for that amount of money that you loaned if you have to take it back. So I personally want to know, would I feel comfortable on that street if I have to take this property back? Would I feel comfortable walking on that street at night? Would I feel comfortable renting that to a family in that neighborhood? So I'll literally Google Earth and walk down the street digitally. And what does it look like? You know, what does the neighborhood look like? Does it look like a safe place? So we do a lot of work to vet the property. We'll look oftentimes at the demographics in that area. Is this a growing population or a declining population? What's the crime rate? How many sexual predators are in that neighborhood? Whatever it is, we try to dig deep and look at the property to see if it's going to be a good thing. What's the market doing in that area? Is it increasing or declining? And then we choose, once we've decided on what that after repaired value is, we will then set our maximum loan amount based on 70% or less of the after repaired value. 70% is the maximum I want to do. I have gone slightly over under certain circumstances. 65 makes me feel a lot more comfortable, but we usually go to 70. And then we work with the borrower to say, okay, this is our max loan, and we go from there on the numbers. But the third thing that we vet and underwrite is the paperwork. Oftentimes, I don't prepare the paperwork myself at this point. That may change in the future. I want a lawyer in the state where the property is located to prepare the paperwork because I'm only licensed in North Carolina. So if I'm loaning in Virginia, I want a Virginia lawyer to prepare that paperwork. Now, because I am a lawyer, I can review the paperwork just fine by myself. And I do. I read every single document, even lawyers that I've worked with 30 or more times. I still read every piece of paper because sometimes, you know, the paralegal puts in the wrong legal description or they put in the wrong name or something. You still have to check and look at every single piece of paper. If I were not a lawyer, then until I got really comfortable with that lawyer's paperwork, I would have my own lawyer review it because your paperwork will make you or break you. And in my 21 years, I've had 2 properties that I had to threaten foreclosure on. And the only reason they both ended up either selling or refinancing me out. So I never had to go through foreclosure. But the only reason I was never worried about it was because I knew without a doubt, 1000% that my paperwork was rock solid and I was protected. I cannot tell you how many deals I have seen where people don't understand the paperwork, don't read the paperwork. And when things go south, they are up the proverbial creek without a paddle because they have no paperwork to grant them any legal recourse. You know, I've seen people, and I've been told I can share this story. I won't give any names, but someone who thought they were loaning $1 million to somebody in the Richmond area, who's hopefully no longer doing these deals. And turns out they didn't really read the paperwork, and it wasn't loan paperwork at all. There was no first lien position. There was no mortgage or deed of trust. It was set up as essentially a JV type thing, an LLC agreement where the borrower in quotes, had all the power. And that particular person had to spend 3 or 4 years going to court and got their money back minus about the $100,000 in legal fees they had to pay. But only, I think, because the borrower then suckered somebody else in and got money to pay back these people because they were the bigger pain in the rear end. They had no paperwork to stand on. They came out to my farm actually to meet with me. And I looked at it and I said, you better go look at that property because this is not a loan. You did not loan this money to this person. So in that case, their paperwork could have broken them if the quote unquote lender was not a bulldog, called, every federal agency you could call to report fraud and abuse and one thing or another, and sued the pants off the alleged borrower. If they'd had the right paperwork, they wouldn't have lost $100,000 in legal fees. They would have just foreclosed on the
So I
property.
think that's a great point to make, is your paperwork matters. And when I think of people that have committed fraud over the last 5 years, a lot of them were using shoddy paperwork. And
Yeah.
they were doing loans with very intelligent people who just didn't take the time to really understand what they were doing, or they start off trusting them like the first number of deals were good, and then things get sloppy. Sloppy
get
paperwork,
sloppy.
sloppy results, and that leads into fraud.
And a lot of times, and we're going to talk about this, I'm going to talk about this next week at Dealmaker, but a lot of times, you can have two different ways that people become scammers or cheats or whatever. Some people start out that way to deceive you and steal your money. And, we know somebody who just stole $30 million from people. That was intentional from the get-go. Then you have people, and I've seen some of these, some of my former friends were these, who started out well-intentioned, but their money got ahead of them, and they ended up having to do essentially Ponzi schemes to get more money from one person to pay off the former person. And it just snowballed to where there's no way they could pay everybody back. And so you just have to be really careful. But that's one of the reasons why I'm going to look at the person. Like the guy who stole $30 million, he had a criminal record for essentially theft of, different things. And I don't think anybody ever checked. And I probably wouldn't have checked on him because I thought he was one of the good guys. I would have sworn to you he was one of the good
Me
guys.
too.
So you really have to.
Me too, Mary.
You have to check. Everybody I know, John Heyer says that, probably Jeff says that. Everybody I know says, oh my God. I mean, he never asked me for money, thankfully, because I probably would have given it to him. And when I've talked to some of his victims, because they've asked me to look into things, and I've said, well, send me the paperwork. And I find out that, well, they never got any paperwork, or they got alleged paperwork that was supposedly signed, but they never got any signed copies, and they never had title searches done, and they didn't realize that the person was selling property they never owned, and on and on and on. So many red flags that could have been caught from the get-go if someone had paid attention to the paperwork.
Let's do this. Let's spend 5 minutes talking about 3 or 4 red flags. We can give tips to everybody. Would you guys like to hear a few?
Yeah.
Hands up, anybody? Okay, you're all with us? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a whole section on this next week.
Okay, we'll give a sneak preview, okay? Never, I'll give a couple, you give a couple. Tom, you
Yeah.
can give a couple. Jeff Watson can give a whole bunch. Everyone give a couple. Don't
Yeah.
wire money directly to a borrower. There's one.
Yeah. Now, let me caveat that one. Sometimes we will never wire purchase funds directly to a borrower. They always have to go to a closing attorney or closing agent, title company. If it's a title company, you have to make sure it's not a fake title company, because scammers are now creating fake title companies. Looks like a real company. So you've got to go on the Secretary of State's website, find out if it's a legitimate entity, how long has it been in existence, ask for references for other people they've closed loans with, things like that, because they literally are creating fake title companies now.
Yep, you got to be careful for sure. Some title companies are beginning to use an authentication app. Has anybody seen that? It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I have not yet. Now I will wire, like if I'm already in the loan and somebody needs a draw request, we will wire that directly to the borrower's business account. But that's because we're already in the loan with them.
Yeah, it's like a draw, sure.
Draw. We'll
So
wire
that's
that.
one.
Never-
Number two, if you think if you're making a loan, you need to read the docs, because some people are stacking loans and some are unsecured completely. I mean, smart people like dentists and doctors and things like that are getting taken just because they don't know what they're doing.
Right. You
Did
need
add
someone
to that, Mary?
Yes. Well, you need someone that you trust to do a title search, first of all, to see if there are any other recorded liens against the property, because we know of people, again, gurus in this space, which is another, potential red flag, depending on how they present themselves, is, we know people who sold first lien positions to multiple people.
That's what I'm getting at. They stack them.
Stack them, yeah. And so I had one guy call me, who did a pretty big, like $100,000, which was a huge amount to him. It was his kid's college fund. Did $100,000 loan, and came to find out that he was the third one. So there's no way he was getting this money back.
Yep.
And he's out that 100,000. No way he's getting it back. But he never checked. He just trusted the person who put everything together, because they're very slick, they're very charming, they're a big guru in the space, and that's one of my red flags. And as Tony Robbins says, I am not your guru. I teach a lot, but I am not a guru. I never tell anybody I'm a guru.
You are a guru, Mary Hart.
I am not a guru.
You're like Yoda.
Yeah, well, anyway, but the people, you know what I mean by guru. The
I know
people
what you mean.
stand up in the front of the room and say, look at me, I'm the best thing since sliced bread, and you should give me your money no matter what. And yeah,
You won't see me do that either, Mary.
no,
As you know.
I have a hard time even selling my own business services. I'm a terrible marketer.
I'm going to help you on that.
I'm terrible at it.
Okay, so get a title search, do a lender title policy. Who's got another one? Jeff Watson, Tom Olson, who's got one you can share?
Yeah, for me, the biggest red flag for me has been when borrowers are too like in a hurry and they'll answer like super fast and they bug you like too much almost. I understand like the flip side of that is you know, a lot of times when you're working with a private lender, you want to get the deal done quick. But you know, for me, it's been my experience most of the time that's a red flag. I also really do, and Mary mentioned this briefly, I always get a scope of work because I want to see how experienced, I can tell you super fast how experienced they are by just looking at their scope of work. And then thirdly, I would just say for referrals as well, if they have people that they've already done business with, you know, talking to them, I think it's a big deal. You know, we talked about being a good lender and how to get more good borrowers is to do what you say you're going to do. It's the same way being a borrower. I always say this, the number one way to raise more private capital is to just pay people back. So when you pay people back, word spreads and they magically have more money the second time you ask them for money. It's the same way though. So the news will spread with borrowers as well if you just fund the loans and do what you say you're going to do.
I want to comment on the fast thing, because this is one of the triggers that I put in as a red flag in my Dealmaker talk. Is if someone is pressuring me in any deal, you know, we don't have time for you to do that, we got to have the answer today, then my answer is always no. Because you either need to give me the time to underwrite properly, which doesn't take very long, but still give me that time, or the answer is going to be no. And that is a hallmark of people who are trying to cheat. Oftentimes they will try to use emotional manipulation or embarrass you. I thought you were a big player. What do you mean you need 3 days to underwrite this, or 2 days? You know, you should be able to do this in an hour. They'll try to embarrass you. So don't let someone pressure you. And if they do, then don't do the loan, because that's not a person you want to work with. And they very well could be a scammer trying to get your money before you figure them out.
Good.
All right, Jeff, do you have any to add? I'm sorry, my dogs are barking.
I've got 3 items to add. Number one is always begin with a loan application. Mary referenced our dear friend who passed away last year, Dykes Botiford. Dykes has I use an application that I got from Dykes. The second thing I'm going to say is always double check and verify the accuracy of any wiring instructions. Mm-hmm. And the last thing I'm going to mention is always have the borrower pay for the closing protection letter. Mm-hmm. The CPL, the closing protection letter that verifies that if your funds are mishandled by the escrow agent, you're covered by the title insurance carrier.
Yep. I agree with all of those. And
So that's a big one. Most people, Jeff, don't even know what a closing protection letter is. Could you just touch on that real quick?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, Mary and I know what they are, and the experienced lenders and borrowers know what they are, like Junior and Tom and you and so on. So let me just get down to, we've had these things, it's a technical word called defalcations, where someone in the title company or the escrow company will steal the money. The wire comes in, but it's not there for closing because someone stole the money. So you can buy an insurance policy against that happening, and it's called a closing protection letter that says we, from the moment your money arrives via wire, then until it's dispersed pursuant to your closing instructions, that's my fourth point, then we'll cover it if it gets lost, stolen, or whatever, okay? So it's a second insurance policy. It's not like title insurance, because title insurance verifies the accuracy and position of your recorded lien. Closing protection letter covers you if your money gets stolen from you before the closing or after the closing when you're supposed to get your payoff and instead you don't get your money and so on. And then the fourth element that I just touched on in answering all that was, if you are a lender, provide the title or escrow company, the closing attorney, with written closing instructions, your roadmap for how this deal will close.
And by the way, they don't always listen or read your closing instruction letter. So you have to follow up with the closing agent to make sure that they do everything you say in your closing letter. And that's hard. The
Yep.
communication levels are often not very good. So I'll do a nice, what I think is an easy to read, complete closing instruction letter. And half the time it gets ignored if I don't call and say, make sure you do, whatever, ABC. And by the way, Chuck had a good point on the chat that, to your point about calling for wiring instructions. Don't just trust the phone number on the wiring instructions. Independently verify that number. Go to the internet, the website, find the actual phone number that's published for that title company or whatever, because wiring instructions can get hacked. People can change phone numbers, change account numbers. So try to verify it independently. And it's sad that we have to do it this way, but we have to do it this way.
Wire fraud is something I always worry about, and I'm always really cautious on it. Last thing you do is you want to have your loan ready to go as a lender, send it in, and then the money disappears because somebody, an escrow agent, a lawyer, a settlement agent steals it because you don't have your CPL, or you wire it to the wrong place.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. I always call to make sure. Tom, how about you? How do you protect yourself on wire fraud?
Yeah, Darlene actually just put a good point in here as well. Like we do this as well. I have the title agent sign initial the closing letter back as well, and your instruction letter. So make them sign your instruction letter. Basically, that confirms that they got it. And then I think if you're in one market and you're loaning in one market, I think this is just good advice. I think try to get a relationship with a really good title company, because then it's like you already know it's already in your accounts. You don't even have to get new wiring instructions on every single deal because it's already somebody that you've already wired to before. If a title company is not sending you a secure portal now, they're operating illegally. Like they are not allowed to send an email anymore with wiring instructions. It has to go through a secure port, at least in Indiana. At least that's what my attorney said for Indiana. I think that's a national thing, but I know in Indiana 100% that's law.
Tom, that's Ohio too, so it's a national thing.
Yeah. So like if you're not getting that from a new title company, you better make sure. And the thing is, like it's most of the fraud I'm hearing is not the fraud from somebody in the title company. It's somebody that hacked an email. It's somebody that hacked an email back and forth, and they're not even associated with the title company, and they look really legit.
I've received them.
You got it. My email's been hacked before a long time ago. I remember when we were supposed to send a wire, and it just looked. I'm glad I checked it, but knock on wood, this has never happened to us, but I've heard it happen a lot. I get my wires frozen about once a week. Sending out where they have to confirm with me, like their Chase fraud department will pop up and be like, and as annoying as it is for me, like every time I get in the phone with my banker, she's like, Tom, if you knew the amount of fraud, that is going on, you would thank us for stopping these wires from going out. So just know that if you're going to get into this business.
So I want to add one thing about the wires. So I prefer a wire because the money can get there quicker and I don't have to charge as much interest to the borrower. I actually just had a situation happen where a closing agent did not follow my instructions and they sent me a check instead of a wire. And that check was drawn on their local bank, Village Bank or something. So I went to deposit it at Chase. They held that check for 10 days. So and I had an investor on that one. So I had to pay the investor for those 10 days of interest, even though I didn't get them, because I didn't charge the borrower for them because I thought I'd have the money by a certain day. But the bank held it for 10 days, 10 days, maybe even 11. It was crazy.
Self-directed IRA companies love to hold it too, so they earn extra interest. Just saying.
Right.
Eric Long,
I actually said that to Chase Bank. I believe you're just trying to take advantage of
they
the float.
do. It's a strategy.
Yeah.
It is
And I
a
said, I don't think that's right, but
Me neither.
they didn't
Well,
listen
that
to
probably also goes back to when you're creating a payoff letter, making sure that your payoff letter has instructions for the title company on
Yeah.
how to send you your money back. So maybe
Yeah.
you did that, Mary. I don't
I
know,
did
but
that. Yeah. No, I did that. They ignored me.
you just ignored it. Yeah.
They
So
ignored it. They said, we don't like to wire money, but they never told me they weren't going to wire it. They never communicated with me. They just did it. And I said, when do you expect the wire to come? Oh, we're sending you a check. I'm like, no, I need a wire. Oh, sorry, we don't do wires. I was like, not happy because then I didn't charge the borrower. So, but I still had to pay the investor. So that was about, potentially $700 and some out of my pocket.
A lot of
Maybe
money.
even more, maybe even more, maybe 1,000.
Well, how do you guys like the discussion today? Like where we normalize a community that talks about real life investing? Good?
Yeah.
Can I add something, Jim?
Yeah.
When it comes to private lending, I will only lend to either an LLC or a trust. I will not loan to an individual because I never
Mhm.
want a rehabber to move in at my rate of interest and declare that property as homestead because his wife got ticked off and kicked him out. Okay, so that's going to be a business property. It's a business loan. It is not ever going to be a consumer loan or a personal loan. Additionally, I require a land trust because I want one additional piece of collateral. I want a collateral assignment of the beneficial interest in that trust. So in the event of default, I can demand that the trustee take action. And that gives me a lot of power that I wouldn't otherwise have with just a note and a mortgage. Now, Florida is a trust state, so we've got great statutes on the books. And we work with a lot of private lenders, some hard money guys, and they love it because it allows them basically to take a property back without the need to go to a foreclosure. Now, obviously, if there's a fight,
How many lenders would like that arrangement? That's an interesting.
yeah,
Let me chime in for a minute. Some states will not allow you to do that. They're going to
Sure.
make you go through foreclosure because of the equitable interest that the borrower has.
absolutely right, Mary.
You have to be very careful. It's not a be all to end all strategy in some states. I want to chime in too, Augie, about what you said about only loaning to an LLC or trust. I agree with that. I do not loan to individuals. However, let's say it's either one of those. I always get a personal guarantee from the borrower. And I also always have the borrower sign an affidavit stating that this is a business loan, not a consumer loan. They will not occupy the residence. They're never going to occupy the residence, and so on and so on. Because if that were to happen and someone claims that I've got usury or anything else, because now all of a sudden it's their home, I want to show that they signed an acknowledgement and swore to it that this was never going to be their primary home, and they understood they were getting a business loan.
Yeah, we get all of that too. I want a belt, suspenders, and duct tape if I can get it.
Yeah.
Jeff,
Don't forget the baling wire. Don't forget the baling wire to go with the duct tape, Augie.
Amen, Jeff. Amen.
And so speaking of baling wire, we now institute a requirement that when I'm drafting docs for a lender, that there is a borrowing resolution signed by the manager and members of the LLC, or there is a borrowing resolution approved by the beneficiaries of the trust that is borrowing. Just one more with everything else that's being added. Yep.
And while you're doing those resolutions, and I'm sure you do this, you have to make sure that if every member of the LLC is not signing every document, that there's a resolution saying who has the signing authority to sign on behalf of that entity.
Correct.
the lawyers should, and the title company should ask for that, but I find that they often don't. And so I
Agreed.
will ask for that in my closing instructions.
I've closed many of them personally and nobody ever did that. So I know it's
I
common.
do.
But we've seen instances of fraud where LLCs that have been dissolved by states are still out borrowing money.
That's the other thing, get a certificate of good standing or whatever it's called in your state. I always require that when I loan to an LLC. They've got to prove to me that on the date of closing, that LLC is still in good standing. Because if it's not, they don't have the authority to sign anything in the name of the LLC.
There's a question from Chuck. Should a lender handle draws, or is it okay to have the title company issue approved draws? I think this is a personal preference opinion here, but what's your guys' opinions on that?
I do my own draws. I don't go through an escrow account. I just send them myself. But I use now sitewire.co. I think it's sitewire.co, which is a remote third-party general contractor inspectors, because I don't live where some of these properties are. And it's like $95 per inspection. The borrowers have to upload photos and videos and all that. And it's geolocated to where that property is. So they can't show me a picture of a hot water heater installed in a different property, for instance. All those photos and videos get uploaded to an app. SiteWire GCs tell me if they approve the draw based on the scope of work and what was supposed to be done in that tranche, that draw. And then I wire based on that approval. And we look at it too. Patty looks at it and makes sure it's also, copacetic, but that's how we do it.
Sure. Well, we've got a lot of questions rolling in. I don't know how much time we have here. We have a few more minutes. Do usury laws apply only to businesses? Eddie, good to see you.
Usury
I'll let Jeff
laws
answer
are
the question.
generally consumer protection. There are some states like Michigan that also have business usury statutes. So it's going to be something that is going to be state by state. Check with your local attorney.
And then Marty said, I'm lending out of my IRA. Do I need a license to do that?
No.
Okay. All right. There's a lot to all this lending. Do you guys agree? Shake your heads, yes. So when we started off saying it's the best seat at the table, it's not always the easiest. You do have to have good people and a good team and good processes, good docs. And there's a couple different ways you can sort of become involved with it, even before you do your own private lending. For one, like Tom's got a debt fund. He didn't mention it today, but he's got a debt fund at 12% right now. I mean, that's a really strong return for a passive investor. And nobody wants to promote their own businesses, so I got your back on this one, Tom. I mean, that's a strong return. That's closing out at the beginning of April from memory. You could also jump into some of Mary's deals as a co-lender. There's others of us that do wraps as well. Chuck's one, myself is another. I love doing them. I've got another one I'm getting ready to send Jeff in a few minutes. So that's kind of a nice way to get sort of involved without doing the heavy lifting. You can invest into a fund, you can co-lend with another lender who does all the heavy lifting and all that underwriting, the docs and the servicing. So anyways, just a couple other thoughts. Do you have any final closeout thoughts on lending today, Mary?
So I just wanted to let everybody know there's a lot of questions that we probably didn't get to answer today. And it's been a great call. Appreciate you, Mary, for spending some time with us, and for Jeff for hopping on. If you're interested in learning more about lending, there are 3 amazing events that I know that are coming up. There may be more, I don't know. And one is Jim is doing an event in October in Dallas that's going to be centered right around private lending. And then Mary, I believe you're doing an event with Wendy. When is that event?
So Wendy Sweet and I are doing a 3-day intensive lending seminar, October 2nd through the 6th in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. People are interested in that. They can just email me, Mary Hart at fairoaksfunding.com is the easiest, or Mary Hart at maryhart.net. If you don't want to type that many letters, either one will get to me and I can send information.
Perfect.
So that's a 3-day lending institute, we're calling it.
And then the other one is not an event that's being sold. The only way you can possibly get to it, and it's me and Randy Shelley are going to put on a small, if you like to learn in a small mastermind setting with, 10 or less people, we're going to do a mastermind that we're going to give away for the auction for a couple different people. This is going to be in early November, and we're going to be with Tom Nardone in his place. And for one day, we're going to go out on his airboat. If you've never been on an airboat, that's a whole nother experience as well. So we're going to have some fun with that. We sold this on the cruise, and then we're going to also sell this next week in the auction with Jim. So those are 3 events that I know of that you guys can learn about private lending.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Tom, you want to close this out?
Absolutely. I normally try to get back to my slides if I can. Hopefully they work this
I
time.
love normalizing these discussions.
Yeah,
And I appreciate everyone who participates so much.
Yeah, so next month, hopefully my slide's showing there. Next month, we've got, who's next?
Andy
Andy's going to
Beasley.
be talking next month, April 15th. Hope to see you guys next month, but everybody's going to get together next week. Can't wait for everybody to be together and have a good time in Richmond. That's it for today, guys. God bless. Have a good day. Go make some deals.
I will see so many of you next Tuesday, so I can't wait. And I'm super excited to do that.
Well, thanks, Tom and Jim, for having me on the call. I love talking everything lending, so it was great. Thanks so much. Good to see all of you. I hope I see a lot of you at Dealmaker next week. It's going to be a great conference.
See you guys later.
See you
Bye.
soon.
Thank you.